This is part 2 of my recap on solo leveling. You can watch the previous parts with the link in the description below at the end of the last episode. The anime opens showing Song Child telling them all not to move because they think the statue will attack anyone who moves. Meanwhile, Jinwoo, who was worried about Juhee's condition, was seen being approached by Song Shiyu, who thanked him because it was Jinwoo who had shouted to warn them all. But at the same time, Jinwoo was very surprised because it turned out that Song Kyeol had lost one of his arms. Not wanting to make the existing condition worse, Song Kyeol just asked Jinwoo to help him stop the bleeding on his hand. Then Song Kyeol told him that even though Juhee was a B-rank healer, he was timid and easily startled, which made him keep slowing down in lowly dungeons like that. Song Kyeol, who admitted that he had entered B-rank dungeons 2 or 3 times before, was very confident that the statue was most likely a rank or even S-rank. After recalling the contents of the previous Kartanon Temple's decree, Jinwoo suspected that the god included in the decree was the statue. The scene then moves to school, and a student named Sung Jin-ae is seen, who is Jinwoo's younger brother. It was seen that his friend, who was late for school, suddenly asked about his brother who was a hunter. After confirming this, Sung Jin said that his brother was often injured and almost always came home with bandages. Returning to the dungeon, Jinwoo and his raid party were seen, and Song was discussing with Jinwoo. Then one of them looked fed up just being silent and decided to run away from there, because he felt confident in his speed. But what happened was that he looked dead and only had his 2 legs left. Knowing that the statue could kill them all whenever he wanted. But that actually became a big question for Jinwoo. Even though he could do it, why didn't he immediately kill them all? After that, Jinwoo asked Song Kyeol to reiterate the contents of the previous Kartanon Amendment rules, since the first rule is to respect the god. Jinwoo is very sure that the dungeon must have a rule. After daring himself to try his conjecture, Jinwoo immediately asked all his colleagues to prostrate before the statue. Even though at first everyone didn't believe Jinwoo's words, because he told them that their suspicions were in accordance with the rules of respecting the gods, they all immediately followed Jinwoo's method of prostrating themselves in front of the statue, until finally the statue's expression then changed to smiling at all of them. Seeing that the statue was no longer moving, this made everyone there cheer happily because they thought everything was finished. However, Jinwoo felt that there was something very strange about their current situation, and it turned out that their misery would still continue. Jinwoo then remembered the second rule of the commandment, which said, "Praise the god." Hearing this, one of them admitted that he had studied folklore studies and asked to submit the matter of praise to the gods. However, after saying it, Jinwoo was surprised, because it turned out that the man had offered a compliment that he shouldn't have given to the god of the statue. Because he mistakenly offered praise to God, the man was then killed instantly and died on the spot. Seeing this incident, they all ran away so they could survive the statue's attack. When Jinwoo, who was carrying Juhee, ran away from there, Park was seen stopping because he thought he was far enough away. But he forgot one thing, that all the statues there could definitely move at any time. Because of his carelessness, Park now has to die there. Meanwhile, Jinwoo continued to recall the rules of the command and continued to analyze their current situation. Until finally he found the point of enlightenment from the second rule, where spears, hammers, and swords are weapons. But among the statues there, some of them are not carrying weapons, but rather musical instruments. Then Jinwoo immediately shouted, asking everyone there to look for the statue with instruments. And sure enough, after they arrived at the statue with instruments, the sound of music could be heard from every statue that already had an occupant. But apparently Jinwoo just found out that one statue can only be occupied by one person, so he was forced to ask Juhee to wait there while he had to look for another instrumented statue. Jinwoo continued to run with the statue, continuing to chase him. Thought Jinwoo was dead, but because of his persistence, Jinwoo managed to escape his own death. He continued to drag his body accompanied by the statue's footsteps, which seemed to be stepping on him. In the end, Jinwoo managed to survive and understand the meaning of the Second Amendment. After the statue sat back down, Juhee was seen approaching Jinwoo because she was very worried about him. However, Jinwoo's safety just now doesn't mean there isn't a price he has to pay, because it turns out Jinwoo has lost his leg. Even though Juhee wanted to force herself to help heal Jinwoo's wound, Juhee's body was unable to. At the same time, even though Kim felt concerned about Song Shiul, who had lost his hand, he still blamed everything that happened on Song Shiul. Even though he and Park really wanted them to continue their previous search, it's possible that we too have experienced something similar, where when the situation is critical, usually we will be very depressed and end up blaming other people. Then suddenly, the statue appeared to have an altar right in the middle of the room. Jinwoo then said that an altar is a place to offer something, such as property or life, to a god, and that is the meaning of the third rule, which says, obey the god. Hearing this, Kim, without thinking, intended to avenge Song Shiul, especially since Song Shiul had promised to take responsibility for all mistakes that weren't actually his fault. In a short time, in order to know what would happen, Jinwoo asked the two people to help him approach the altar together with them. At that time, when the three of them entered, 3 flames were also seen appearing there. Even so, Jinwoo still doesn't know what it all really means. After asking about the reinforcements that would be coming, Song Shiul said that it had been a week since they had entered the dungeon, but he was sure that they would all be wiped out before the reinforcements arrived. Hearing this, Jinwoo explained that the gate would be fully open in 7 days, and that was the moment known as the dungeon break. The original purpose of holding the raid was actually to prevent that from happening. The scene then changes. We see Sung Jin coming to the hospital to visit his sick mother, not knowing what the disease was, but as a good child and filial to his parents, Sung Jin continued to chat with his mother even though her mother was unconscious. Back to Jinwoo and the others, Kim and Juhee were asked to get closer there so they could find out what would happen. After all the fire around them was fully lit, it turned out that the fire emitted blue electricity instantly. After finding out the mechanism for attacking all the statues there, it turned out to be the same as the game they played when they were little. Jinwoo then asked everyone there not to avert their eyes at all, even though he knew and saw that all the statues there had stopped. Because of the pressure experienced by one of the people carrying Jinwoo, he felt that he couldn't stand it anymore and decided to run away alone. Then initially only one person ran away, but it was clear that because of the pressure of fear and selfishness to save himself. This made a man who was helping Jinwoo then throw him and run away like the girl before. When they were all gone, the door slowly started to close as more people left there. And when Kim also wanted to run away, he was immediately stopped by Jinwoo, who believed that the blue fire was a cooldown that they had to go through to survive. But the selfish Kim said there was no guarantee that they would survive even though the countdown was over. He didn't expect that Jinwoo, who was the weakest hunter among them, had actually been so helpful since the statue incident started. And of course, Kim's words just now didn't mean to praise him, but he also wanted to run away like those two people. Then after Kim left, Jinwoo, Song Shiul, and Juhee were left. When Song Shiul asked Juhee to take Jinwoo away from there. However, in a critical situation like that, Juhee suddenly became a burden. Seeing this, Jinwoo asked Song Shiul to take Juhee away from there. Hearing Jinwoo's words just now, of course Juhee knew what he meant. Because they had very little time, Song Shiul immediately made Juhee faint and apologized to Jinwoo. After the two of them had left, Jinwoo felt grateful because the final victim was himself. After the two of them left, because he didn't want to die in vain, Jinwoo was seen taking Kim's sword in the hope of bringing at least one statue in front of him. But what happened was that Jinwoo lost and was beaten to the ground by all the statues.
よかった。道連れにしてやる。かかってこい。死にこれまでやってきた。
In the midst of it all, Jinwoo hopes that he can become a little stronger. When he wanted to vent all his emotions by screaming, unfortunately this made the statues attack him. When Jinwoo was placed in the middle of the altar, he said how hypocritical his gratitude had been. And Jinwoo had to watch the last seconds before he was executed by one of the statues. Jinwoo, who didn't want to die yet, hoped that he would be given another chance. And in the end, episode 2 ended here. Thank you so much for staying on this channel and watching our videos. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel so we can keep you up to date with our latest content. See you in the next video.